What is up, YouTube? Today we want to talk about something, the crazy crazy stuff that video game collectors, any kind of collectors have done, and just people that have gone crazed over stuff that sells. This was suggested to me a while back, and it's been kind of on the back burner. Sorry, buddy, I've been trying to work on it. But T Wolf Held DM'd me about some crazy stuff that was going on at his local Target. That he'd been hearing about people, specifically with the Pokemon card craze that was going on. As a lot of you know, a few years back, they literally could not stock Pokemon cards fast enough. They were just in and out, in and out, in and out. And people were going absolutely nuts over this. Scalpers were loving it. And just collectors in general had to start doing some crazy stuff to be able to get these cards. Now, in his DM, he had mentioned that I think it was one of the employees had actually been followed home by somebody wanting to buy Pokemon cards to get the kind of the down low on when they're going to be released, if they could get some before any other people were going to get it. But just from that DM just gave me a good idea for a video that talking about some of the crazy stuff that people have done for, yeah, let's say video games, collectibles, cards, and stuff like that. So I did a community post, so we're gonna go through those first that you guys have thrown at me, and then if I can think of any of my crazy stories afterwards that I've done personally, we will go over them. So let's jump right into it. All right. So, okay, so yeah, this is what we started with. Community question. Your answer could be featured in an upcoming video. What crazy stuff have you or someone you know of done to get a game, collectible, or Pokemon cards? Example, stock employees are hanging out in stores for long hours to wait for restock. So I kind of use that as an example from what T Wolf Hell said to me. So Wes here says the craziest thing I've done to get a game is get a job and use my wages to purchase the game. Sometimes the games cost as much as $60. Now they're wanting $70. Crazy. The craziest thing Wes has done is got a job, guys. No, just kidding, buddy. No, this is not like... I remember being a young kid, I want to say around 10 years old, and getting a paper route that was the Monday Shopper. And specifically getting this job, I only did it for a couple months, but so that way I could save up money to buy games because we didn't have much money. The only time I ever got video games was really on my birthday or Christmas. So this was when I found out that they will pay me money just to take these papers and drop them off at, you know, like I think it was like 80 to 90 people's houses. It was awesome. So, yeah, I mean, it's not that crazy a thing to do, but to some people it might be nowadays. It seems like a lot of people don't like to work. So, Tumo here said, we got a little bit. 1999, he traded in an Atari Jaguar, all 10 or so games he had, and a couple other things to Funko-Land for a Dreamcast on launch day. Some of you are going to say, well, this ain't too crazy. This is what normal people do when they get rid of old stuff to buy new stuff. I think the only crazy thing about this is seeing how much Atari Jaguars and stuff go for nowadays compared to the Dreamcast, specifically not only the console but the game itself. Do I think that this was a big mistake? No. I've done similar stuff, as we'll talk about near the end of the video. But yeah, that's not too bad. In 2006, he said he waited in line for 3.5 hours to get a Wii from Target when they opened. I saw a video a while back. There's people that were camped out. They literally brought PlayStations and TVs, and they were camped out waiting for when the PS2 was launched. And they were literally like staying overnight and everything, waiting to get their hands on a PS2. Now, 3.5 hours doesn't seem very long to some people, but that could be a lifetime when you're super excited for something that's coming out. I remember when the Wii did come out, I've talked about how after the N64, I've not really been much of a huge Nintendo fan, or really just kind of wanting to get much for it. But I remember trying to get a Wii at the time that they were launched because they were the cheaper console. The 360 and the PS3 were so expensive that my only option at the time for not having much money was getting a Wii. Plus, I was like, the motion control seemed really sweet, Wii Sports and everything like that. So I remember picking my Wii up. I had to drive, I think it was like 120 miles or something like that. It was 2 hours one way just to get a Wii because they were out of stock everywhere else. In 2011, I got my PS3 copy, Mortal Kombat Collector's Edition with bookends and more from GameStop a few days before release day from a friend who worked there. Now that's freaking awesome. In the past, one of my buddies had pre-ordered a game, and he went to Walmart because there was a mistake, and they actually gave him the game a day or so in advance. So it felt very illegal to be able to play it before anybody else was playing it at that time. But yeah, that's awesome. Guys, there's perks of having friends working in the retail. I remember when I worked at Walmart, we were notified when the Super Nintendo Classic Minis were getting ready to drop before they got put out. So me and a buddy were able to grab one because we saw the craze from when the NES Minis came out that you couldn't find them anywhere, and they were selling for like $250, $300. So our friend from the electronics section told us, hey, I'm putting these out at this time, be over there and I'll get you one. So that's what we did. Alright, Scorpion Heatseeker says, not too crazy, but I knew a guy whose friend worked at Best Buy that he was going to buy a copy of Turok for the N64 and the music CD section before release date. I went in and found it and bought it, no issues. It felt cool at the time. See, and that's exactly it. Similar story to the one before where new buddy that put it off into the section for him. He picked it up, got to play it early. That's freaking awesome, guys. Turok was a fun game. I hated the controls. If you guys ever get a chance to play Turok, the new release onto Xbox, I think it was. I don't know if they did and stuff like that. Very good with the new controls. What's on my shelf? In 94, 95, early internet days, I found the address of a Japanese game company. Despite calling many game stores across America and visiting those local to me, I could not find a certain game made by that company. It was a desperate move, but after finding the address, I wrote a letter in English, handwritten, nobody does it nowadays, asking to purchase the game from them and send it off into the wild world of international snail mail. I don't remember how much later it was, but I received a package with the Japanese moon runes on it. Upon opening, I pulled out a game and a letter. It was the game I wanted, though it was the Japanese version. The letter stated that I was sworn to secrecy and not to tell my friends, presumably since they all might ask for free games, and he wanted to pay for the copy. Anyways, he's never told that story, but since I'm not disclosing the company or whatever, dude, I hope that whatever company it was isn't going to be knocking on your door being like, we swore you'd never tell. But that is awesome. I mean, that's what I loved about certain companies, especially back in the day. Just doing sweet, fun stuff like that. Everything nowadays either feels so greedy or pushed along that you don't get to have as much fun with some of this stuff. But it's cool to see companies still doing this. I had a developer a while back, not a big one by any means, reach out to me about games that if I wanted to test and play, and they just wanted to know what I thought about them. So that was really cool to see. I haven't done any videos with them on the channel yet, but maybe down the road I will. White Mage says, I usually go to toy fairs and swap meets to haggle away toys to life figures I don't already own and add into my collection. I mainly do Skylanders and Disney Infinity, but I've gotten Amiibos, but only a small few. So what's really awesome is this person has the opportunity to buy all this stuff online, but they're going out of their way to, do kind of like a fun little actual expedition out into the wild to personally find these instead of just buying them the easy way. Now, a lot of times you can do this and get better deals, and sometimes just find rare ones out in the wild compared to what people know they have on the internet. So that's kind of a nice, fun little thing to do. Orak Bite says, not me, but I know a guy that collected G.I. Joe figures, and he actually took a big-ass loan out to afford certain Grail ones. I remember going on a comment, this guy, I told him, a few of my rules have always been, never take out a loan for video games, and 2, never use a credit card for video games. I think the only time that I ever used a credit card was when a game came out that I really wanted, and I wanted it on launch day, but I wasn't getting paid till like 2 or 3 days later. So I just used my credit card to pay that game so I could play it when it came out. But yeah, guys, never go into debt over collecting. You can justify it by all means by saying it's an investment. They're going to be worth money someday. It's whatever, but don't take that opportunity to put yourself in worse debt, especially taking out a loan with interest rates that they are nowadays. It's ridiculous. That's a good one. I love that one. Fat Boys said, I know a guy who knows when exactly toys will hit stores. He literally buys entire stocks and then hoards them for a hot minute, and then sell. His dad started doing that with the OG Star Wars toys and figures. They are multi-millionaire scalpers. It's ridiculous, guys. There's some people that have turned this into a science. They've turned this into a legit business. And by all means, there's nothing completely wrong with it. There's just people out here trying to make money. But honestly, it's just some shady stuff, guys. Specifically, too, if say some little kid had saved up money and wanted to buy something like that. That's the whole thing with the Pokemon cards. These kids were saving up money and stuff to want to buy this stuff. And then these grown-ass adults were popping in and buying the whole stock and reselling them for much, or, ripping the packs and just trying to sell it all. They weren't doing it for the collecting fire. They weren't doing it for the hobby. Scalpers ruin a lot of things out here, guys. And some people try and justify what they do by scalping, but you're wrong. Let's see here. Lastly, my buddy ED209 said, I walked 4 miles to get a copy of Grand Theft Auto 5 on 360 to ASDA, aka Walmart over in the UK, at midnight. The assistant handed me a copy on the PS3. Then had to wait ages till they got it right. Does this count? Of course it counts. That is walked 4 miles one way to get a game. I'm assuming one way, and then come back. That's crazy. Most normal people won't do that, especially nowadays when we, I personally wouldn't have, but yeah. But I would have begged my mom until she was screaming at me to finally go get a game, probably, instead of walking that distance. I loved all these guys. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to do this. I love doing these types of videos and doing these community responses. And like I said earlier, I'll get into what I've talked about. I remember in the past, I was a huge sports card collector, football. And I remember just spending ridiculous amounts of money on what would be basic duds of packs, just because I had to buy I wanted to buy cards and open packs. So I would always go to my Casey's, which is a local gas station, and buy these Topps regular packs almost every night after work, 3 or 4 of them. And I never get hits, but I do it every night because I wanted to open packs. Obviously, years later, I regret this hugely because I spent so much money on garbage, and it is a lot better sometimes just to buy the hobby packs, because at least then you're almost guaranteed to get some kind of hit. Other than that, like I said earlier, driving 2 hours one way just to pick up a Wii because I wanted to get one at that time. And then probably the only other craziest thing we've done is back when Oblivion came out on the Xbox 360. We used to play it so much that the laser from the 360 was kind of offset and it burned a ring around the game. After buying it 2 or 3 times, me and my buddies, we finally came up with this awesome idea. We had a local movie gallery, which was kind of like Blockbuster. And I went in there one day to rent a different game, but I noticed that they had a bunch of copies of Oblivion. So what we would do is, every once in a while, we would go in and rent one of those Oblivions, swap the discs of the ones that we had that wouldn't work because of the burned ring around it, and then we'd swap the discs. And so that way we'd had almost a brand new disc, and then we could play it for, countless hours again. And then once that ring started up, we'd go rent it again. So once we got bored of the game, obviously we probably went through maybe 2 or 3 discs or something like that through Movie Gallery. But it was kind of funny at the time, just because we were young dumb kids, and we just had this bright idea. Oh my god, if we just rent the game, we could swap the disc, and then we could take the good ones, and then we'll just give them the bad ones. Because at the time, all we were like, well, all they're going to do is, if it's bad, they're probably just going to throw it away and buy another one and replace it, which they ended up doing because it never seemed like they did not have stock. That's about all I can think of for the craziest things I've done. So going off what Fumo was talking on here about trading an Atari Jaguar in and a bunch of games for something that probably in the long run was way less of a value. I remember back, I would have had to been, I think it was in 7th grade. I was in junior high, and I was told about GameStop, but at the time it was called Software Etc. before GameStop had purchased it. And you could take in your old games, they'd give you credit, and you could buy new games for them. This blew my freaking mind because, like I said, we didn't have much money. So anytime I got new games, it's usually just either I had to work for it or it was my birthday or Christmas. So I had this stack of PS1 games, and I ended up taking them in, probably get about $150 worth of credit, and getting like 3 or 4 games, I think it was. And then just at the time, actually absolutely loving it, not knowing any better. Future me is kicking myself in the butt because I was trading in great titles like Breath of Fire 3, Breath of Fire 4, what's that freaking Lunar Silver Story. A lot of these PS1 RPGs that nowadays are worth a good amount of money, and even at the time were probably worth a good amount of money. I was just young and dumb and didn't know any better, so I was trading in all these games, getting practically pennies for them, all to buy a couple new games for me. So it is what it is. I mean, we've all done it. I know a lot of people that share that same exact story where GameStop has ripped them off, or the before FuncoLand and stuff like that, or after FuncoLand and stuff. And it is what it is. It happens. So, but I hope you guys love this video. Always keep your eyes out if you're a subscriber. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider it. But watch for my posts because I'll do a lot of these community questions, and we kind of do similar videos like this. I love to read your responses and also weighing in on what your responses are and also what mine are. So I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video. I hope you guys are having a great week. As always, stay retro, my friends, and we will see you in the next video, guys. God bless.